it rolling?
Hello, we're here with Darren Miles today. Had a couple questions to ask him, and of course it's good to see a normal person on my YouTube stream instead of my face. Where are you from originally? I know you're not from sunny Southwest Florida originally, at least I don't think so.
I'm not from sunny Southwest Florida. I've been there for the last 16 years, but I grew up in the Boston area, but I used to work for a big Fortune 500 company that moved me around quite a bit. I've been in California, Nevada, Tennessee, Mexico, and now, of course, sunny Southwest Florida.
Any particular tips? I know the one thing that people had asked me on the Instagram post that I made of you, that they wanted me to ask you any particular tips that you thought were incredibly important that aren't normally addressed about in photography.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think one of the big things, I think a lot of us out there, we get very, very hung up in how to take the best possible pictures. We want to become almost like Instagram or YouTube famous because we make a beautiful picture. And I think what a lot of folks who are trying to get into photography as a business, it's tough to make it in this business today, especially in photography, but I think one of the things we miss, for lack of a better term, is that I think there's a threshold where there's like a level of good enough for professional photography, then there's extraordinary. But for 95% of the clients out there, good enough is good enough. And if you can hit that threshold, that minimum threshold that's acceptable for the majority of your clients, you can be very successful in photography no matter what genre you're in.
A friend of mine was raving about how great your course is on real estate photography. I think you mentioned something in passing about an hour or two ago that you might be working on a new series or doing something with your current series that you have.
Sure, that's true. The real estate photography for the real world is available on my website. It's coming up on 2.5, almost 3 years old now, and it's getting to the time where I'm going to be revamping the course here probably in the next 6 months. But in the interim, like in the next 30 days or so, I'm probably going to offer up a fire sale on the course and put it out there for next to nothing. And the reason why I'll do that is that what's in that class or what's in that course, even though the content on the actual equipment for taking pictures, etc., is now 1 generation old. Like I talk a lot about the GH4, but I really didn't get into the GH5, or I talked about the EM1 Mark I, but didn't really get into the EM1 II or the Nikon D850, etc. Even though it's 1 generation old, 95% of that content is still very relevant. I probably wouldn't change too much of it. There's a few things I'm definitely going to change about the course, maybe get into some more advanced Photoshop technique, but as far as pure fundamental and getting you going in real estate photography, if you are doing a lot of portraits or shooting a lot of weddings and you're looking for another avenue of revenue, real estate photography for the real world is a great way to get you started in real estate photography and adding that genre to your current offerings to your clients.
Well, thank you, Darren. I really want to appreciate you meeting me out here at the Edison Ford Winter Estates. We've actually had to scurry underneath the canopy a few times out here because of sunny Southwest Florida. It rains every 30 seconds, so we had to rush back to the canopy. Then the sun came back out, and we came out for another 5 minutes, and then it started pouring cats and dogs. Right now, he's using the Fujifilm XT3 that I lent him, and I know he's using XH1 that he has and some other lenses, and he likes 10 to 24 for real estate photography. He wanted to try out the XT3, and he says he said you've finally gotten used to the ergonomics and button placement and all the weird dial arrangements that are possible. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, Fuji's definitely a little bit of a learning curve. If you grew up in digital and you grew up with a standard mode dial, aperture, shutter, etc., when you see the Fuji for the first time, this is like, whoa. This is not a Fuji lens, but most of the Fuji lenses have the aperture ring. So you've got your aperture, your shutter, and your ISO, and just a matter of understanding how those three work together, which is the exposure triangle, and it's really right here in front of you. And it just takes a while to like understand how those things work in conjunction. Now, the beauty of Fuji, as Ken will always tell you, is that you can make this thing into your camera. There's so many customizable options on this thing. You can literally do anything with the XH1, XT2, XT3, etc., and really make it your camera to the way that you like to shoot. I'm just kind of lazy, and I haven't really taken the time to set it up like that. I know, Ken, you have, but I will say this, there's absolutely no question the Fuji image quality and their lenses are excellent.
Well, thank you, Darren. I know you're an incredibly busy person. Unlike me, you have a wife and kids and a normal life, and I think you said you shoot over 1,200...
More like 1,000.
I mean, that's a lot. That
a lot.
is really stressful, so
lot.
I appreciate you taking the time out to say hey to my worthless self and meeting me out here at the Edison Ford. Well, I mean that seriously. I mean, you're a busy, normal guy with a family and stuff, and I'm just a putz on YouTube. So.
Well, stop being so self-deprecating, Ken. You offer up a lot of great information to a lot of photographers out there who are on the fence about a lot of lenses and a lot of cameras, and you offer up a lot of value about where they should go to get lens X or lens Y. I mean, you pull lenses out of the 60s, 70s, and 80s that nobody's ever heard of before that turn out to be gems. I mean, there was that one lens that you recommended, the Tokina 100.
Yeah.
I was going to spend about $750 on the Nikon or the Canon equivalent at the time. I'm like, you know what? Let me try this. That 100mm Tokina is a fantastic lens. That was a fantastic recommendation, and I've kind of been on your channel and watching what you talk about ever since that particular lens recommendation that you put out there.
Well, thank you. It's too incredibly kind of you. Say hey to Darren Miles. I want you to go to his YouTube channel and check him out. He's a really nice, cool cat. I know sometimes I come across as a bit negative. That's just because I'm one of those crusty old man that sits on the porch and, you know, throws popcorn at people. But Darren Miles and a handful of others, I really recommend people to watch. They are real YouTubers, in the sense that they're real working photographers, and Darren's a great, honest, wonderful guy, and I mean that seriously.
Thanks, Ken.
I know I'm a bit too sarcastic sometimes, but I mean stuff like that seriously. So thanks so much for showing up, and go subscribe to Darren Miles' channel and check out his courses that he has, and he says he's going to have a fire sale sometime soon on his current courses.
Keep your eyes peeled.
Thank you, Darren.
Thanks, Ken.